Hello, everybody, and welcome to Feminism and Queer Studies. So this course will examine the history and dialogue between feminist theory and queer theory. And the purpose is that one is to get the understanding of this history because both queer theory and feminist theory, queer scholarship, feminist scholarship, queer activism, feminist activism has been engaging with each other for over 20 years. Actually, you know what? Over 30 years. And it's also really important to look at the historical roots of queer theory as it has so much to do with the historical roots of feminism. Queer theory kind of evolved a lot from feminist thinking and so forth. As well as, not only is queer theory, the history of it lies in feminism, feminist scholarship has been heavily influenced by the work of queer theorists, queer scholarships, and queer activists. So much so that you cannot do feminist research today without engaging with queer theory to certain degrees, but you still have to engage with it. A lot of the stuff that feminists are writing about today, particularly looking at intersectionalities of race, sex, and gender, challenging norms, all of those things, very fundamental pieces within feminist research and scholarship and even activism, is heavily influenced by queer theorists, queer scholars, and so forth. So pretty much that's to say that a lot of feminist scholarship is queer scholarship. So a bit about me. You probably can tell from the background noise that I am recording this from my apartment in Fresno. But my name is Dr. Kat Faubert. My email, and this is really important, please email me at this address, not my IPFW one, only because I won't check it as much as my primary email address, which is katherinefaubert@mail.fresnostate.edu. I am an assistant professor at Fresno State in the Women's Studies program. I also am developing the LGBTQ studies minor here at Fresno State, and I teach a lot of LGBTQ studies classes. Just a little bit more background on me. So my degree is in women's studies with a focus on queer studies, and my work has primarily been around sexual and gender minority asylum seekers, so people who are coming here to the U.S. or into Canada seeking protection and asylum on the basis of homophobic, transphobic, sexist persecution. I also am a queer oral historian, so I've done a lot of work recording the histories of bars, of movements. Like I'm currently doing an oral history project here in Fresno with the history of gay bars here, which is pretty interesting. I also am doing work on access to health and services and so forth. And that very much combines both my scholarship and my activism. For the past 6 years or more, I worked for an organization called Rainbow Refugee, which is based in Canada. It's an amazing organization dedicated to assisting those seeking asylum on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, and HIV status. They do amazing work. They've helped hundreds of people. I feel really, really privileged and honored that I was able to be a part of that organization for so long. I'm currently right now here at Fresno on the board of Trans Emotion, which is this fabulous community support group for trans, gender nonconforming, gender non-binary individuals in the sort of Fresno Central Valley area of California. But I also have a really great history here with IPFW, which I guess would be no longer IPFW, but still. Last year, I was a visiting postdoc scholar in the Women's Studies department. I'm going to tell you that I absolutely adored and loved my time. It was such a privilege to be a part of such an amazing cohort of students. And then, of course, the amazing leadership of Dr. Janet Padilla, who is one of my role models. Also, a great thing is that I actually got one of my cats in Fort Wayne, Rue. So I adopted her as a little kitten. So I had amazing experiences at PFW, and I've got a very cute, adorable diva kitten. who you will probably hear in the background at times because she gets annoyed that I'm working. And so you might hear her, you might hear things crashing in the background because she's trying to make a ruckus to distract me. Okay. So moving on. So here's the thing. This is a summer class. I know, shocking. But it is an intensive summer class. We only have 6 weeks. And with that, then, we are limited both by it being an online class, it being a summer class, short time period, and so forth. That means then that, you know, we can't cover as much as I would like to cover in a course dedicated to queer theory and feminist theory. At the same time, we have to be careful on how far we go, how deep we go into the subjects that we do touch upon. So, this class is very much designed with that in mind, the sort of limitations. So, we will be exploring critical points or conversations between queer theory and feminist scholarship, but at the same time, knowing our limitations, we're not going to go too deep into queer theory or even into feminist theory. So, for those of you who know who this person is, Foucault, we will not be reading Foucault, though I will be talking about him because obviously his work is very fundamental. It's a key cornerstone in queer theory as well as in feminist theory as well. It has had such an impact. But we won't be reading Foucault directly. It's just too dense, and I don't think it's going to be productive for a summer class. Also, Judith Butler. We will be spending a week on performativity, gender performance, and so forth, and bodies, and etc. Key Judith Butler's critiques and arguments, but we are actually not going to read directly her text. We're going to be reading texts that draw upon her theories, only because it is very dense reading material, and I think too dense for an online summer class. So, what I want you to get from this, knowing our limitations, is that I do want you to have a feel of the overview of queer theory and studies, understanding the relationship, the sometimes tense relationship, difficult relationship between feminism and queer studies, as well as vice versa, and there's sort of intertwining conversations that they have with each other. As well as I do want you to have some practical experience in applying some queer theory, some feminist theory around sex, gender, and sexuality. So the assignments are really designed for you to try to not only learn, but to apply. So this class is a bit of a challenge and it's a bit of a balance, knowing the limitations that we have as it being a summer class, being online, and so forth. So those of you who are women's studies students or have taken women's studies classes here at IPFW who are also, I'm going to assume, at least familiar or even well-versed in feminist thought and scholarship, a little bit, particularly this week, will probably be familiar, but hopefully not repetitive. We will be focusing more on the queer side of feminism, sort of talking about how feminism has engaged with queer theory. So that means that we will, for this week, cover a bit about histories of feminism and so forth, and a little bit of foundational work. But we're not going to go too far into that, and instead we're going to switch mostly into talking about queer theory and feminism together. Those of you who might be familiar with some queer theory or literature, you might have had them in your women's studies classes or in your other classes. Hopefully this class will give you a chance to explore it more and apply it to different contexts. We have a lot of projects that, you get to apply queer theory in different ways. But also knowing, again, that this is a summer class, so we will have limitations in regards to how deep we can go into the literature. And then for all of you who are, this is your first women's studies class that you've ever taken, you're not familiar with feminism, you're like, Foucault what? And you don't know what queer theory is, do not stress, okay? I gotcha. You do not have to be an expert on these things. You do not have to come in knowing. to do well in this class. So, with all those disclaimers being said, let's get into the structure of this course. Let's get information, Beyonce. But again, if you have any questions about this class, issues around accessibility of the readings, especially if you can't open them up or whatever, let me know as soon as possible. Best way again is to email me at catherinefaubert@mail.fresnostate.edu. Yeah. So again, I look really forward to working with you in this class. I'm super excited about this class, and yeah, I think it's going to be a really good semester.